Welcome to the Sleepy Scribe. Your endless internet wandering has brought you here, and hopefully, you can finally sleep to today's topic. Now, before we begin, comment where you are listening from and how late it is where you are. It is very interesting to see how far and wide people come to finally be able to fall asleep. Lastly, if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe. It would be very appreciated. Now, let us begin. In a tiny village nestled between rolling emerald hills and whispering forests that stretched as far as the eye could wander lived a humble miller and his wife. Their cottage, no larger than a humble showbox tucked beside the bubbling brook, was worn but full of warmth. The air carried the sweet scent of fresh bread baking and the gentle melody of birdsong threading through open windows. The miller's hands were calloused from years of grinding grain into flour, and his wife's eyes shone with kindness despite the hardships they bore. They were simple folk wrapped in the quiet rhythms of a peaceful life, yet a yearning shadowed their days, a wish for a child, a little soul to call their own, to fill the silence with laughter and the small, urgent footsteps of youth. The miller's wife often whispered her longing to the stars that blinked shyly in the velvet night sky. "If only," she murmured one crisp evening, "if only the stars could grant us a child, no matter how small." The moon smiled down softly, as if in gentle reply, casting a silver glow that cradled the earth like a loving mother. And then, one magical morning, when the air was still and the dew sparkled like tiny diamonds on the grass, their wish was answered. From the heart of a shimmering rose that bloomed beside their door, a baby no bigger than a thumb peeked out with bright, curious eyes the color of summer sky. He was Tom Thumb, the littlest child in the world, but with a spirit vast as the rolling hills and a heart bursting with courage far beyond his tiny frame. His fingers were as delicate as the petals of the rose, yet they clutched his parents' hands with a fierce love and determination that belied his size. Tom's laughter tinkled like silver bells, and when he crawled across the wooden floor, it was as if a gentle breeze had stirred the dust motes into a dance. Though small enough to fit into a walnut shell, Tom was never timid. His eyes sparkled with mischief and wonder, and his mind brimmed with stories and dreams bigger than the tallest mountains that framed their village. Each morning, the miller would lift Tom onto his shoulder, where the boy could see over the thatched rooftops and spy the faraway lands that called to him like a siren's song. The birds would chirp greetings, and the flowers seemed to lean in closer, enchanted by the tiny boy who dreamed like a giant. Yet, being so small came with its perils. A cat's playful swipe was a tempest, a spilled drop of water a roaring river. Tom's adventures began right at home, where every day was a challenge turned to triumph, a test of wit and bravery wrapped in the guise of ordinary life. Once, he slipped from his mother's apron and was swept away by a swift breeze that carried him like a feather on the wind. He sailed past stunned hens and wagging dogs, his laughter echoing like a joyful song, until he landed softly atop a mushroom cap in the garden, where a family of ants welcomed him as a giant among their kind. The village folks marveled at the little boy who lived in their midst, his size no measure of his spirit. Stories of Tom's cleverness spread like wildfire, how he outwitted the barn cat, how he rode on the back of a sparrow to see the world beyond the village, and how he helped his parents in ways no one else could. Despite his size, Tom was a hero of sorts, a tiny titan whose courage and heart left footprints larger than any giant's. And so, from this humble beginning in the soft embrace of the miller's cottage, Tom Thumb's story began, a tale of wonder, danger, laughter, and the endless adventure found in a world both vast and intimate, told beneath the gentle glow of starlight as if whispered by the night itself. The morning sun stretched its golden fingers across the village rooftops, bathing the miller's cottage in a warm, honeyed light that danced through the open windows and kissed Tom Thumb's rosy cheeks as he stirred from sleep. Though tiny as a thimble, he was filled with dreams as vast and swirling as the clouds above. Outside, the world awaited him, a place of endless wonder and lurking danger woven together like threads in a great tapestry. As Tom climbed onto the windowsill, the breeze played with his dark curls and carried scents of fresh earth and blooming flowers that tickled his nose. Like a leaf caught on the wind, he felt the pull of adventure beckoning him beyond the garden gate. His parents' gentle voices drifted from the kitchen, where the soft clinking of spoons and the warm scent of porridge filled the air. But Tom's eyes were fixed on the distant woods, where shadows shifted mysteriously beneath ancient oaks and the song of hidden birds teased his imagination. He wriggled down from the sill, his small feet tapping softly on the wooden floor, and set out toward the door, his heart pounding with excitement and a hint of nervousness. For though he was tiny, Tom's spirit was bold and curious, a flame that refused to be dimmed. As he stepped outside, the morning dew clung to the blades of grass like countless tiny jewels sparkling in the sun, and the world seemed enormous, alive with possibility. His first challenge appeared swiftly. A mischievous sparrow swooped down, curious about the tiny boy in its domain. The bird's eyes gleamed with playful intelligence as it fluttered nearby, chirping a song that seemed almost like a greeting. Tom laughed, a clear, tinkling sound, and reached out his hand. The sparrow landed lightly on his finger, its feathers soft as the petals of the wildflowers that nodded gently in the breeze. Together, they embarked on a tiny journey through the garden, weaving between towering stalks of corn and navigating past bustling ants whose black bodies shone like polished onyx under the sun. The ants paused, their antennae twitching in fascination at the sight of this miniature human who walked among them as an equal. The garden was a jungle, every leaf a canopy, every flower a mountain, and every puddle a vast lake to be crossed with care. At one point, Tom had to leap over a shiny beetle with a shell as dark and smooth as polished ebony and narrowly avoided a wandering snail that left a shimmering trail like a silvery river behind it. As the sun climbed higher, Tom and his feathered friend reached the edge of the garden, where a narrow path led into the dark embrace of the forest. Beyond the familiar safety of his home, the forest was a place of whispered secrets and shadows that danced with every flicker of light. The trees stood tall and proud, their branches weaving a canopy that filtered the sunlight into a patchwork of gold and green. The air smelled rich and earthy, alive with the songs of unseen creatures and the rustle of leaves stirred by gentle breezes. Tom's heart raced with both excitement and caution, for here lay the unknown, a realm where his courage would soon be tested. And as he stepped forward, the sparrow took flight, circling above as if to say, "Fear not, little one, adventure awaits." The forest greeted Tom Thumb like a vast cathedral, its towering trees arching overhead with leaves whispering ancient secrets in the soft wind. The path beneath his tiny feet was lined with moss as green as emerald velvet and scattered petals that glowed faintly in the dappled sunlight. As he ventured deeper, the chorus of birdsong wove around him in a symphony that seemed both joyful and mysterious. Shadows flickered between the trunks, and Tom's sharp eyes caught glimpses of curious creatures, bright-eyed squirrels darting like flashes of cinnamon and white, and shy rabbits whose noses twitched nervously at his presence. Every step felt like a new discovery, the ordinary transformed into the extraordinary by his diminutive size. He passed beneath great mushrooms that rose like umbrellas and beside ferns that curled like the scrolls of ancient manuscripts. At one point, a sudden rustle in the underbrush startled him, and he froze, heart pounding. But out leapt a hedgehog with spines gleaming like polished bronze. The creature sniffed curiously and, sensing no threat, curled up into a spiky ball that seemed almost too large to believe. Tom laughed softly at the odd sight and carefully tiptoed around the hedgehog as if crossing a living fortress. The deeper he went, the thicker the forest became, sunlight filtering through leaves in golden shafts that seemed almost magical. Here, the air was cooler and smelled sweetly of pine and damp earth. It was a place where time felt slower and the boundaries between reality and fairy tale blurred. As Tom wandered, he came upon a sparkling stream that babbled happily over smooth stones. The water was crystal clear, reflecting the sky like a mirror and dotted with tiny fish that darted like silver arrows. He knelt beside the stream, cupping the cool water in his tiny hands and watching the ripples dance away like little boats setting sail. Beyond the stream, a soft glow caught his eye near the roots of an ancient oak. The light shimmered and pulsed as if breathing with the life of the forest. Curious, Tom crept closer and discovered a circle of delicate blue flowers that glowed faintly in the shade. The flowers seemed to hum with magic, their petals shimmering like spun glass. He reached out to touch one and felt a gentle warmth spread through his fingers as if the forest itself was welcoming him into its secret heart. As he sat amidst the glowing blooms, a sudden rustling sounded above, and looking up, he saw a face peering down, a small, sprightly figure with eyes as bright as stars and hair that sparkled like morning dew. It was a forest sprite, a guardian of the woods whose smile was both mischievous and kind. The sprite's voice was like the tinkling of bells as she spoke. "Little one, you are brave to come so far alone. The forest holds wonders but also perils. Do you seek adventure or wisdom?" Tom's eyes sparkled as he answered, "Both, I think. For the world is so big and I want to know it all." The sprite laughed softly and waved her hand, causing the flowers to glow brighter. "Then your journey has only just begun. Come with me, and I will show you wonders beyond your dreams." With that, the sprite floated down, her laughter mingling with the rustle of leaves as Tom felt a thrilling sense of wonder and possibility surge through him. The forest, vast and alive, had opened its heart and beckoned him deeper into its magical embrace. The sprite's laughter tinkled through the forest like sunlight filtering through leaves, casting playful shadows that danced along the moss-covered ground. Tom's heart quickened with a mixture of excitement and wonder as he followed her delicate footsteps, barely making a sound amid the forest's soft symphony. The air grew thick with the scent of wildflowers and ancient trees, a perfume that seemed to weave itself into his very soul. The deeper they ventured, the more the forest transformed around them. The trees grew taller, their trunks wider than the biggest houses in Tom's village. Their branches intertwined high above, creating a cathedral of green and gold where beams of light pierced through like the spotlight of some grand stage. Everywhere Tom looked, magic shimmered, the leaves shimmered with iridescent hues and the flowers glowed faintly in shades of blue and violet. As they walked, the sprite's voice became a soft melody weaving stories of the forest's secrets and the creatures who dwelled within. "Here lives the wise old owl who watches through the night and guards the ancient knowledge of the woods," she whispered, pointing to a hollow high above where gleaming amber eyes blinked slowly. "And there, beneath the fern, sleeps the gentle deer whose footsteps bring life to the forest floor." Tom's eyes followed her gestures, drinking in the wonder of every detail. It was as if the forest itself was alive and breathing in rhythm with his own heartbeat. Suddenly, the sprite paused and knelt beside a cluster of violet blueberries. "These are the berries of courage," she explained. Their delicate skin shimmered like morning dew. "Eat one when you feel afraid, and it will fill your heart with bravery." Tom reached out and plucked a single berry. The moment its juice touched his tongue, a warm glow spread through him, chasing away any lingering fears. The sprite smiled knowingly and took his hand. "There is much to see and learn, but be wary, for not all is as gentle as it seems." Just then, a rustle sounded nearby, and from behind a thicket emerged a fox with fur like burnished copper. Its eyes gleamed with curiosity and intelligence. The fox circled Tom once before sitting back on its haunches as if inviting him to follow. With a nod from the sprite, Tom set off alongside the fox whose swift movements seemed to cut through the underbrush like a whisper. The forest path wound around ancient oaks whose roots twisted like giant serpents and crossed bubbling streams that sang songs of old. The fox led Tom to a clearing bathed in golden sunlight where magnificent stag stood proud. His antlers stretched wide like branches of the forest itself, and his eyes held a calm wisdom that seemed to see through to Tom's very soul. The stag bowed his head in greeting and with a voice deep and gentle spoke, "Welcome, little one. You have traveled far and shown great courage. The forest honors you." Tom felt a warmth spread from his chest as if the stag's words were a gift wrapped in sunlight and shadow. Here in this enchanted clearing, the tiniest boy felt as grand and mighty as any hero of legend. His journey had only just begun, but already he knew the forest's magic would be with him always, guiding his steps and lighting his way. Tom's heart swelled with awe as he gazed at the majestic stag, whose antlers seemed to cradle the very sky itself, twisting and turning like ancient branches reaching out to touch the clouds. The sunlight danced upon the stag's coat, a shimmering tapestry of russet and gold that flickered like flames in a gentle breeze. The clearing itself felt sacred, as if time had slowed to honor this moment, and the soft hum of the forest seemed to pulse in rhythm with Tom's own quickening breath. The stag's deep voice lingered in the air, reverberating through the trees like a comforting melody. "Little one, the forest has watched you with quiet eyes, and it is clear you possess a courage beyond your years. But courage alone is not enough in this realm of magic and mystery. There are trials you must face to prove your worth and unlock the true power hidden within you." Tom swallowed hard, the weight of those words settling warmly in his chest despite a flicker of nervousness that danced like a shadow in the corners of his mind. The stag continued, his gaze steady and kind. "To journey through the forest is to walk a path woven with light and darkness. You will meet creatures both friend and foe, and each will test your heart and mind. Take these words with you, trust your spirit, be swift with your wits, and never forget the kindness that burns brighter than any flame." As the stag's voice faded into the rustling leaves, a sudden breeze swept through the clearing, carrying with it the scent of pine and wildflowers. Tom looked down to see nestled at the stag's hooves a small leather pouch, worn and weathered yet pulsing with a gentle warmth. Intrigued, He picked it up and found inside a handful of tiny, shimmering seeds that sparkled like fragments of starlight. "These are the seeds of hope," the stag said softly. "Plant them in places where darkness threatens to take root, and light will grow in their stead." Tom's fingers closed tightly around the pouch, feeling a surge of purpose and possibility fill him. The forest, vast and mysterious, had given him a gift not just of courage but of hope and a mission that stretched far beyond his tiny stature. With a final nod, the stag stepped back into the trees, his form dissolving into a golden mist that floated upward like the breath of the earth itself. Left alone in the clearing, Tom felt the forest's quiet magic settle around him like a protective cloak. His thoughts danced with dreams of the adventures ahead, of challenges to face and mysteries to unravel. Yet beneath it all burned a steady flame of determination, as fierce and bright as the morning sun. Rising, Tom tucked the pouch of seeds safely into his satchel and glanced toward the shadowy path that led deeper into the woods. A gentle rustling caught his attention, and from behind a thicket emerged a curious fox with eyes sharp and gleaming like polished amber. The fox's sleek fur gleamed like molten copper in the dappled light, and its tail flicked once before it regarded Tom with a knowing gaze. Without hesitation, the fox began to trot down the path, glancing back as if urging Tom to follow. With a deep breath and a heart pounding with excitement, Tom stepped forward, his tiny feet firm upon the earth, ready to face whatever wonders and perils awaited beyond the veil of trees. The forest whispered around him, alive with promise and peril, as the smallest hero began the next chapter of his extraordinary journey. The forest path stretched ahead like a ribbon of mystery, weaving through towering trees whose branches knitted together to form a canopy dappled with sunlight and shadow. Tom Thumb followed the copper-colored fox whose agile steps barely disturbed the carpet of fallen leaves and moss beneath them. Each breath Tom took was filled with the rich scent of earth and pine mingled with the faint sweetness of wild berries ripening in hidden clusters. As they moved deeper, the sounds of the forest grew richer, a chorus of birdsong, the rustle of small creatures in the underbrush, and the gentle murmur of a distant brook. The fox paused beside a fallen log thick with emerald moss and nudged Tom gently with its nose as if inviting him to rest. But Tom's eyes gleamed with eagerness and he shook his head lightly. There was too much to see, too much to learn in this enchanted place. The fox seemed to sense his determination and with a soft whine resumed their journey, guiding Tom along a narrow trail that twisted and turned like the coils of a serpent. Shadows danced around them as beams of sunlight filtered through the leaves, painting the path in patches of gold and green. Every now and then a squirrel would dart across their way, its bushy tail flicking like a flame, and a flash of color would catch Tom's eye, a flash of blue from a hidden bird or a glimmer from a spider's web strung like silver lace between the branches. The forest felt alive with stories waiting to be discovered and secrets eager to be told. Suddenly, the fox stopped and lowered its head, sniffing the air with sharp nostrils. The scent was faint but unmistakable, a hint of smoke and the sweet tang of baked bread. Tom's stomach rumbled, reminding him of the morning meal he had left behind. Yet this was no ordinary smell. The forest seemed to breathe with a life all its own as Tom listened intently to Maila's soft voice, weaving melodies that hummed through the air like the gentle caress of a summer breeze. Each note carried the wisdom of centuries, the secrets of leaves and streams whispered from one generation of trees to another. Tom's heart swelled with a newfound connection to the world around him, as if the roots of the ancient oaks stretched out to embrace him, their strength lending him courage and peace. With each lesson, he learned to hear the subtle rustle of leaves speaking of distant rains, the murmur of the wind hinting at approaching storms, and the gentle footsteps of unseen creatures tiptoeing through the underbrush. The forest was no longer a vast, unknowable expanse but a living, breathing companion, rich with voices and stories waiting to be heard. As twilight deepened, painting the sky in hues of lavender and rose, Maila guided Tom outside to a quiet glade where fireflies danced like tiny stars come to earth. Their glow flickered softly among the ferns, casting a spell of light and shadow that seemed to pulse with the heartbeat of the forest. "Now," Maila whispered, "you are ready for the next step." She handed Tom a small, polished stone etched with ancient runes that shimmered faintly in the dimming light. "This stone will help you call upon the forest's strength when you are in need, but remember, it is your heart and spirit that hold the true power." Tom clutched the stone tightly, feeling its smooth surface warm beneath his fingers as the forest night wrapped around him like a velvet cloak. The stars above twinkled gently, as if winking in approval, while the soft hoot of an owl echoed from the shadows, a sentinel watching over the smallest traveler's path. Filled with hope and resolve, Tom thanked Mela and prepared to continue his journey deeper into the enchanted woods, where mystery and magic intertwined, and where the next adventure awaited beyond the veil of ancient trees. Tom stepped lightly from the glade, the polished stone warm in his pocket and the forest's whispered secrets filling his ears like a gentle song. Each footfall upon the mossy earth was a step into the unknown, yet Tom's heart beat with a fierce bravery, as though the very trees themselves had planted courage inside his chest. The shadows lengthened and twisted, weaving patterns on the forest floor that danced in time with the fading light, but Tom's eyes gleamed with the thrill of discovery rather than fear. As he moved deeper, the woods thickened around him, their ancient trunks standing like silent guardians who had witnessed countless tales unfold beneath their boughs. Suddenly, a rustling sound broke the quiet, a flutter of wings and a soft, melodic chirp. From the bushes emerged a small bluebird, its feathers shimmering with the delicate hues of the morning sky. The bird hopped closer, cocking its head as if inviting Tom to follow. Without hesitation, Tom took the hint, trailing behind the bright little guide as it led him through a labyrinth of ferns and flowering shrubs, each step revealing new wonders. A spider weaving silver threads across branches, a family of rabbits nibbling tender shoots, and a sparkling brook where sunlight fractured into prisms upon the water's surface. The path twisted and turned until they arrived at a hidden clearing, where a ring of ancient stones stood weathered but proud, etched with symbols that pulsed faintly with a mysterious energy. The bluebird fluttered to the center and began to sing, its song weaving through the air like a spell. Tom watched, mesmerized, as the stones began to glow softly, bathing the clearing in a pale, ethereal light. The air hummed with magic, and Tom felt a deep connection to the ancient power surrounding him, a reminder that even the smallest among us can be part of something vast and timeless. The glow from the ancient stones bathed the clearing in a gentle light, casting long shadows that flickered like playful spirits across the moss-covered ground. Tom stood quietly, feeling the hum of magic seep into his very bones, as if the forest itself had reached out to cradle him in its timeless embrace. The bluebird's song grew softer, weaving into the rustling leaves and distant whispers of the woods. Suddenly, from the edge of the clearing, a figure emerged, a tall, slender woman cloaked in flowing robes of shimmering green that seemed woven from the forest itself. Her hair cascaded like a waterfall of autumn leaves, and her eyes held the depth of ancient wisdom and the sparkle of youthful curiosity. "Welcome, Tom Thumb," she said, her voice as clear and soothing as a mountain stream. "I am Lysandra, guardian of the forest's heart. You have come far, and the forest has watched your journey with great care." Tom's heart pounded in his chest, a mixture of awe and anticipation swirling inside him. Lysandra stepped forward, her bare feet barely making a sound on the soft earth, and she reached out a slender hand, inviting him closer. The forest's magic is bound not only to the trees and the creatures but to the courage and kindness that dwell within your soul. To continue your quest, you must prove that your heart is true and your spirit unyielding. She lifted a small, glimmering crystal from a pouch at her side, a prism that caught the light and fractured it into 1,000 dancing rainbows. "This is the crystal of clarity," Lysandra explained. "It reveals the truth hidden in shadows and reveals the path when all seems lost. But it will only shine for one who walks with honesty and bravery." Tom reached out and took the crystal, feeling its cool surface pulse with gentle warmth. He looked up at Lysandra, determination blazing in his eyes. "I am ready," he said, his voice steady despite the tiny tremor of nerves fluttering inside him. Lysandra smiled and nodded, then gestured toward a narrow path winding deeper into the forest, where the light grew dim and the trees leaned close as if whispering secrets just beyond hearing. "Go forth, little one. The trials ahead will test all you have learned and all you hope to become." With a final reassuring glance, Lysandra stepped back into the shadows, leaving Tom alone with the glowing crystal in his hand and the echo of her words ringing like a promise beneath the canopy of ancient leaves. Tom took a deep breath, the cool crystal warm in his palm, its light pulsing softly as if alive. He stepped onto the narrow path, where shadows clung like thick velvet and the scent of damp earth mingled with whispers of forgotten tales. Every step echoed with the crunch of leaves beneath his tiny feet, each sound magnified in the stillness of the deep woods. The trees towered overhead, their branches twisting into intricate patterns that wove a tapestry of darkness and light, like the delicate lace of a spider's web shimmering in morning dew. As Tom ventured further, the forest seemed to close in around him, a silent maze of ancient roots and flickering shadows. Suddenly, A low growl rumbled through the underbrush, sending a shiver down his spine. From behind a mossy rock emerged a creature, large and sleek, its eyes glowing amber like molten gold, fur as black as the midnight sky. Yet despite its formidable appearance, the creature's gaze held a curious intelligence rather than menace. Tom's heart pounded fiercely, but he remembered Lysandra's words, honesty and bravery. Slowly, he stepped forward, meeting the creature's gaze with steady eyes. "I mean no harm," he whispered, voice steady though small. The beast lowered its head, a deep rumble vibrating like a purr, then turned, beckoning Tom to follow. With cautious hope, Tom trailed after the shadowy guardian through winding paths and over trickling streams, each step a dance of trust and courage. Together, they ventured deeper into the forest's heart, where mysteries awaited and the true test of Tom's spirit was about to unfold. The shadowy guardian led Tom through a labyrinth of ancient trees, their trunks gnarled and twisted like the hands of time itself, reaching out to touch the sky. The air grew thick with the scent of moss and wildflowers, and the soft murmur of a distant waterfall beckoned them onward. Tom's small heart beat with a mixture of awe and anticipation as he followed silently, each step measured and careful over roots that tangled like serpents beneath his feet. Suddenly, the guardian paused beside a crystal-clear pool, its surface smooth as glass and reflecting the canopy above like a living mirror. The amber eyes of the creature met Tom's gaze once more, and with a gentle nudge, it urged him forward. Taking a deep breath, Tom knelt by the water's edge and peered into the depths, where shadows shifted and shimmered beneath the surface. There, faintly glowing, lay a cluster of luminous stones, tokens of the forest's ancient magic, pulsing with quiet power. As Tom reached out a trembling hand to touch one, the water rippled, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. A voice echoed softly in the rustling leaves, "Only those pure of heart may claim the light." Tom's fingers closed around a smooth, glowing stone, warmth flooding through him like sunlight breaking through clouds. The guardian's eyes gleamed with approval as the pool's surface settled into perfect stillness once more. With the stone in hand and the guardian at his side, Tom felt the weight of his quest deepen, knowing that the challenges ahead would require all his courage, kindness, and cleverness to unlock the forest's true secrets. The glowing stone nestled warmly in Tom's palm, radiating a gentle light that seemed to pulse in time with his heartbeat. The pool's surface shimmered faintly, reflecting not only the canopy above but also the flickering determination in Tom's eyes. Around them, the forest whispered softly, its ancient breath weaving through the leaves like a lullaby for the brave. The guardian stepped closer, its sleek black fur shimmering in the dappled light, eyes filled with a quiet pride as if sharing in Tom's newfound strength. With a slow nod, the creature turned toward a narrow path veiled by thick ferns, their edges glistening with drops of dew like tiny jewels. "This is the way of trials," the forest seemed to say, a path where shadows and light danced in an eternal embrace. Tom's fingers tightened around the glowing stone as he stepped forward, feeling the soft earth beneath his feet, the cool whisper of the breeze brushing against his cheeks, and the subtle thrum of magic thrumming in the very air. Each step forward was a heartbeat, a promise, to himself, to the forest, and to the quiet hope that no matter how small he was, his spirit could shine as brightly as the stars above. The path twisted and wound deeper into the woods, revealing glimpses of wonders and challenges alike, ancient trees with faces carved by time, streams that sang with voices of old, and shadows that flickered like memories just out of reach. Tom's breath came steady, his eyes sharp and curious, ready to meet whatever the forest had in store. With the guardian silently watching, a silent sentinel in the twilight, Tom embraced the unknown, stepping fully into the heart of his adventure. The way of trials stretched before Tom like a winding ribbon woven from twilight and starlight, each step leading deeper into the mysteries of the forest's heart. The glowing stone pulsed softly in his hand, a steady beacon of hope and courage guiding him through the growing shadows. As he moved forward, the trees seemed to lean closer, their ancient limbs whispering secrets in a language only the wind could understand. Suddenly, the path opened into a vast glade bathed in silver moonlight, where the air shimmered with an otherworldly glow. In the center stood a towering figure carved from living wooden vines, its eyes glowing with emerald fire, the guardian of the trials. Its voice rumbled like distant thunder. "To pass, you must prove your heart's truth, your wit's sharpness, and your courage's flame. Face the tests with honesty, and the forest shall reveal its deepest secrets." Tom swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the challenge settle on his small shoulders, yet his spirit burned bright like a beacon in the night. With steady steps, he approached the Guardian, ready to face the trials that would shape his destiny and uncover the magic hidden beneath the ancient canopy. The Guardian's eyes glowed brighter as Tom drew nearer, casting emerald light that flickered and danced like tiny flames weaving through the silvered leaves of the glade. The air thickened with an almost tangible anticipation, as if the very breath of the forest held still, waiting for the smallest hero to take his first bold step into the ancient challenge. Around them, the towering trees stood silent and watchful, their gnarled limbs arching overhead like the vaulted ceilings of a grand cathedral carved from bark and leaf. The soft rustle of leaves and the distant call of a night bird mingled in a hushed symphony that seemed to honor the solemn moment. The Guardian's voice softened, carrying the weight and wisdom of countless seasons as it filled the glade with a deep, resonant calm. The first trial is the trial of truth. Speak honestly, and the forest will guide you. Speak falsely, and you shall wander lost forever in twisting shadows where even light dares not tread. Tom's small chest rose and fell with a steady breath, his fingers tightening around the smooth, glowing crystal of clarity that pulsed gently against his palm, as if it too was alive with the magic of this sacred place. Though his stature was tiny, his spirit blazed brightly, steady and unwavering like a lantern's flame against the creeping dark. Suddenly, the air around him shimmered, and a cool mist began to rise from the mossy earth, curling upward in slow, swirling tendrils that twined and twisted like silken silver snakes through the dappled moonlight. The world itself seemed to shift and ripple, the trees and stones dissolving as the glade transformed into an otherworldly labyrinth of thorns and shimmering illusions that stretched endlessly in all directions. The pathway before Tom twisted and curled like the coils of a great serpent, its walls formed of living vines that pulsed faintly with an inner light, while shadows danced upon the thorns' sharp edges, whispering secrets meant only to confuse and confound. Each step was a question, every turn a test, not just of Tom's feet, but of his heart and mind. The labyrinth was alive, its magic woven thick with deception, designed to trap the unwary in webs of falsehood and doubt. But Tom's hand clutched the crystal of clarity tightly, its steady glow piercing the gloom like a beacon, cutting through the swirling fog of uncertainty and casting truth's pure light upon the twisted paths. Along the winding course, Tom encountered reflections of himself, mirror images born from the labyrinth's magic, their eyes shimmering with mocking glints. These reflections whispered doubts, fears, and lies in voices like the rustling leaves and crackling twigs, tempting him to stray from the path of honesty and into the shadowy maze of deceit. "You're too small, too weak. What could you possibly hope to achieve?" they hissed, their smiles sharp as thorns. Yet Tom's gaze was firm, his voice quiet but resolute as he spoke his truth aloud, dispelling each shadow with the radiant light of his own unyielding spirit. "I am small, but my heart is brave. I may be tiny, but my courage is vast." With every truthful word, the illusions faltered and dissolved, the thorns retracting like frightened snakes, and the tangled vines unwinding to reveal a clear, straight path. The labyrinth slowly melted away like morning mist under the sun's first rays, opening at last into a vast clearing bathed in pure, golden light that felt warm and welcoming as a mother's embrace. The air was crisp and sweet with the scent of wildflowers, and the gentle hum of the forest's life seemed to pulse in harmony with Tom's own racing heartbeat. From the shadows at the edge of the clearing, the Guardian's deep voice echoed once more, now softened with a rare warmth and pride. "You have passed the trial of truth. Your heart is clear, your spirit unwavering. The forest sees your honesty and rewards your bravery. Prepare now for the next challenge, for the path ahead grows ever more perilous, but also rich with wonder and magic." Tom's lips curled into a determined smile as he stood tall, no longer just a tiny boy but a hero in the making, ready to face whatever trials awaited him beneath the watchful eyes of the ancient forest. The golden light of the clearing bathed Tom's small figure in a warm, gentle glow, as if the very sun itself had descended to bless his courage and truth. Around him, the forest seemed to breathe anew, the ancient trees whispering softly in a language older than time, their leaves shimmering like emerald flames flickering in a midnight breeze. The air was thick with the scent of pine and wildflowers, sweet and earthy, mingling with the faint trace of distant rain on mossy bark. The soft rustle of unseen creatures stirred the underbrush, their eyes gleaming with quiet curiosity, watching the tiny hero who had proven himself worthy of the forest's trust. Tom cradled the crystal of clarity close to his chest, feeling its gentle pulse like a heartbeat intertwined with his own. Every step forward was a promise, to the forest, to himself, and to the vast world of wonders yet to be discovered. The Guardian's voice echoed through the clearing once more, a low rumble like distant thunder wrapped in the softness of twilight. The next trial is the trial of courage. Beyond this glade lies a realm where shadows stretch long and dangers hide in the hush between the trees. To pass, you must face your deepest fears and prove that your heart can shine bright even when the night is darkest. Tom's breath caught in his throat, but his resolve held firm. He knew that courage was not the absence of fear, but the strength to move forward despite it. With a steady step, he turned toward the narrow path winding away from the clearing, where twilight gathered like a velvet cloak and the forest seemed to hold its breath in anticipation. The trees grew denser here, their trunks thick and knotted, branches weaving a canopy so tight that only slivers of moonlight pierced the darkness. The air was cooler now, tinged with the sharp scent of damp earth and the faint metallic tang of hidden secrets. Each footfall echoed softly in the stillness, a rhythm of determination and hope. As Tom ventured deeper, the shadows seemed to flicker and shift, shapes dancing just beyond the edges of vision, glowing eyes that blinked open then vanished, whispers that curled through the leaves like a breeze carrying forgotten voices. His tiny heart pounded, a drumbeat of courage pounding against the walls of his chest, but he held the glowing crystal high, its light a steady beacon that pushed back the creeping darkness. Suddenly, from the shadows emerged a figure, a great bear with fur like molten gold, eyes deep pools of ancient wisdom and fierce protectiveness. The bear's growl rumbled through the forest like distant thunder, yet it did not advance with menace. Instead, it stood as a living testament to the wild's raw power, a guardian of the night's mysteries and trials. Tom met the bear's gaze without faltering, feeling the primal strength radiating from the majestic creature. In that moment, he understood. This was no enemy but a test, a living embodiment of the courage he must summon. Taking a deep breath, Tom stepped forward and spoke softly, his voice steady despite the fluttering nerves within. "I face you not as a foe, but as a seeker of courage. I am small, but my heart is mighty, and I will not turn away." The bear regarded him with eyes that seemed to look beyond flesh and bone, into the very soul of the tiny adventurer. Then, with a slow, deliberate nod, it lowered its massive head in a silent gesture of acceptance before turning and vanishing silently into the depths of the forest. Tom's chest swelled with a mixture of relief and newfound strength. The path ahead was dark and uncertain, but he carried with him a light brighter than any shadow, a courage born not from size or strength, but from the unyielding spirit of a boy who dared to dream and to face the night with open eyes. The trial of courage had begun, and Tom's journey through the enchanted forest grew ever deeper and more wondrous beneath the watchful stars. The forest seemed to exhale as the great golden bear melted back into the shadows, leaving Tom standing alone beneath the heavy boughs that stitched a canopy overhead like an endless quilt of darkness and green. Yet, in the quiet that followed, the soft pulse of the crystal of clarity in his palm was a steady heartbeat against the rising silence, a lighthouse guiding him through the enveloping night. The path stretched onward, winding through thickets where the moonlight dared only to peek, casting ghostly silver fingers across mossy stones and tangled roots. Every step Tom took was a whisper on the forest floor, a delicate dance with shadows that flickered and shifted like restless spirits. Somewhere in the distance, an owl's mournful hoot echoed, a haunting melody that mingled with the rustling leaves and the gentle creak of ancient branches swaying in the night breeze. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth, sweet pine, and the faint, mysterious perfume of night-blooming flowers that seemed to glow faintly in the dark. Tom's eyes adjusted to the gloom, sharp and bright, flicking from one shadow to the next, reading the language of the forest with the keen attention of a born explorer. His breath came slow and steady, each inhale filling him with the wild perfume of the woods, each exhale mingling with the whispers of unseen creatures stirring in the underbrush. Suddenly, a shimmer flickered ahead, a soft, silvery light that danced between the trees like a living flame. Tom's heart quickened, and he moved toward it with cautious wonder, the glow weaving through the branches and beckoning him deeper. As he drew near, the light resolved into a delicate wisp, a fairy of the forest, her wings shimmering like spun glass, glinting with all the colors of dawn. Her eyes sparkled with mischief and kindness, and her voice was a tinkling melody that floated on the breeze. "Brave little one," she chimed, "you walk the path of courage well, but the night is long, and the forest's secrets are many. To continue, you must face the shadow's whisper, the fear that lives in silence and doubt. Only by embracing the darkness within can the light truly shine." Tom nodded, feeling the weight of her words settle deep inside him. The fairy's delicate fingers brushed the crystal in his hand, and suddenly the path before him shimmered and shifted, folding into a shadowed grove where the air grew thick with an eerie stillness. Here, the whispers of fear curled like smoke around his ears, threading through his thoughts with icy fingers. Faces made of mist flickered at the edge of his vision, and voices echoed doubts that clawed at his courage. But Tom stood firm, the glowing crystal a steady warmth in his palm, and he whispered to himself, "I am not my fears. I am stronger than the shadows that try to hold me." With each step he took forward through the shadow's whisper, the voices grew fainter, the mist dissolved, and the grove brightened as dawn's first light broke through the canopy, spilling golden warmth across the forest floor. The fairy's laughter rang clear and bright as she appeared once more, twirling like a leaf on the breeze. "Well done, little hero. Your courage has banished the darkest night within. The forest honors your heart." Tom smiled, feeling the surge of triumph ripple through him like the gentle rush of a spring brook. With the fairy's blessing and the crystal's steady glow, he stepped beyond the grove, ready to face whatever wonders and challenges awaited in the ever-deepening mystery of the enchanted forest. The forest's breath seemed to change as dawn's first light spilled softly through the thick canopy, painting the mossy floor with strokes of gold and emerald. The shadows that had clung to the edges of Tom's vision during the trial of courage now retreated, folding themselves back into the ancient roots and hidden hollows where they belonged. The air was alive with the gentle hum of awakening life, the soft rustle of leaves stirred by morning breeze, the trill of songbirds greeting the day, and the distant murmur of a stream weaving its silver thread through the undergrowth. Tom's footsteps felt lighter, each one a melody of hope and renewed strength as he moved deeper into the heart of the forest. The crystal of clarity pulsed gently at his side, a steady heartbeat of magic that seemed to resonate with the very soul of the woods. Ahead, the path opened into a sun-dappled glade where wildflowers swayed in quiet rhythm, their colors vivid as the brushstrokes of a master painter. At the center stood a great ancient tree, its massive trunk scarred by time yet brimming with life. Its roots spread wide, curling and twisting like the veins of the earth itself, and its branches reached high above, disappearing into the shimmering canopy. This was the tree of wisdom, whispered in forest lore to hold the knowledge of all who had ever walked beneath its boughs. As Tom approached, the air shimmered with a gentle magic, and a soft voice, ancient and soothing, filled the clearing. "Welcome, little seeker," it said. "You have shown truth and courage, and now you come for wisdom. To hear the forest's heart, you must listen beyond the words, beyond the leaves, and into the silence between." Tom settled beneath the sprawling roots, feeling the cool earth beneath him and the steady pulse of life all around. Closing his eyes, he breathed deeply, letting the whispers of the forest fill his senses. The murmur of sap rising within the tree, the distant call of an unseen bird, the faint rustle of creatures hidden in the underbrush. Time seemed to stretch and fold, the world fading until only the heartbeat of the forest remained, steady and eternal. In that sacred silence, visions blossomed in Tom's mind, a tapestry woven from moments of light and shadow, laughter and tears, strength and tenderness. He saw the miller's cottage, the gentle hands that had cared for him, and the rose from which he was born. He glimpsed the creatures he had met, the fox with eyes like polished amber, the stag with antlers that cradled the sky, and the golden bear whose presence had tested his courage. Each vision sang a story of connection, reminding him that even the smallest soul was part of the great, unfolding tapestry of life. As the visions faded, the ancient voice spoke again, softer now, like a breeze through leaves. "Wisdom is not a treasure to be held but a light to be shared. Carry it with kindness, and your journey will be blessed." Opening his eyes, Tom felt a deep peace settle within him, a quiet strength born of understanding and love. The crystal at his side glowed warmly, a symbol of the journey he had undertaken and the promise of adventures yet to come. The sun's golden rays filtered through the thick canopy, casting a kaleidoscope of light and shadow across the forest floor, where delicate ferns unfurled like ancient scrolls and wildflowers nodded gently in the soft morning breeze. Tom Thumb, his spirit now steadied by the wisdom of the ancient tree, moved with renewed purpose along the winding path that snaked through the enchanted woods. Each step seemed to hum with the forest's own heartbeat, a rhythm woven from countless years of life, magic, and mystery. The crystal of clarity hung close at his side, its gentle glow a constant companion illuminating even the dimmest corners of his journey. As Tom ventured onward, the air grew thick with the rich scent of pine and earth, mingling with the faint sweetness of ripening berries hidden beneath tangled brambles. Birds flitted overhead, their songs weaving a joyful symphony that danced among the leaves like shimmering ribbons of sound. The forest was alive, not just with creatures but with stories whispered in the rustling of leaves and the babbling of brooks. Suddenly, the path opened into a sunlit clearing where an ancient stone circle stood, weathered monoliths etched with runes that glowed faintly with the echo of forgotten magic. This was the Circle of Seasons, a sacred place where the pulse of time itself was said to be strongest. Tom approached reverently, his small hands tracing the cool surface of one of the stones, feeling the hum of power beneath his fingertips. As he stepped into the circle's center, a warm breeze stirred the air, carrying with it voices soft as silk, weaving tales of seasons past and those yet to come. The stones began to glow brighter, casting an ethereal light that wrapped around Tom like a cloak of stars. The air shimmered as the forest's ancient magic unfolded, painting vivid visions before his eyes. The blossoming of spring's first flowers, the golden blaze of autumn leaves, the silent hush of winter's snow, and the warm embrace of summer's sun. These images flowed like a living tapestry, each moment a thread woven into the endless dance of life and change. The voices whispered lessons of patience, renewal, and the ever-turning wheel of existence. To walk the path of the forest is to understand the cycles of all things, they seem to say. Embrace change with an open heart, for it is the rhythm that guides the world. Tom's heart swelled with a deep sense of belonging, a knowing that he was part of something vast and eternal. The forest was not just a place of trials and magic, but a living story that he now carried within him, a story he would share with others through his deeds and dreams. As the light of the stone circle dimmed and the visions faded like morning mist, Tom felt the gentle brush of wings against his cheek. Looking up, he saw the forest sprite who had first welcomed him, her eyes sparkling with pride and affection. "You have learned well, little one," she said, her voice a melody woven from laughter and light. "The forest's secrets are many, but your heart holds the truest magic of all, the courage to seek, the wisdom to listen, and the love to carry it forward." With a final twirl of shimmering light, the sprite vanished into the dappled sunlight, leaving Tom standing alone yet never truly solitary. The path beyond the clearing beckoned, winding toward new horizons and adventures untold. With the crystal's gentle glow lighting his way and the forest's ancient wisdom echoing in his soul, Tom Thumb stepped forward, ready to continue his extraordinary journey through a world as vast and wondrous as his dreams. The forest seemed to breathe around Tom Thumb as he stepped beyond the sacred circle of seasons, the echoes of ancient magic still humming softly in the air like a distant lullaby. The path ahead twisted and wound through a thicket of towering oaks and whispering willows whose leaves shimmered silver in the gentle light of the rising sun. Each step felt like a step deeper into a world woven from the fabric of dreams and wonder, where every leaf and shadow held a secret waiting to be discovered. The crystal of clarity pulsed faintly in his pocket, its steady glow a comforting presence amidst the swirling tapestry of light and shade. As he journeyed, the forest around him seemed to come alive with quiet anticipation. The chirping of crickets blended with the distant call of a woodpecker, and the gentle rustle of the wind through the branches carried the faint scent of honey and wild thyme. The ground beneath his feet was soft with moss and fallen leaves, cushioned like a pillow to every small footfall. Ahead, a bubbling brook wound its way through the woods, its waters sparkling like scattered diamonds beneath the sun's warm gaze. Tom knelt beside the stream, dipping his tiny hands into the cool, clear water and letting it trickle through his fingers like liquid crystal. Around him, the forest seemed to hold its breath, the gentle ripple of the brook mingling with the rustle of leaves in a symphony of nature's quiet song. As he rested, a flutter of wings caught his eye, and turning, Tom saw a small family of dragonflies skimming over the water's surface, their iridescent wings catching the light in flashes of sapphire and emerald. They danced like fleeting sparks of magic, weaving through the air with a grace that seemed to echo the delicate balance of the forest itself. Feeling a renewed sense of wonder, Tom continued along the brook's edge until the trees opened onto a sunlit meadow carpeted with wildflowers that swayed gently in the breeze like waves upon a golden sea. The air was sweet with the scent of blossoms, and butterflies flitted lazily from petal to petal, their wings painted with the soft hues of dawn. In the heart of the meadow stood a grand stag, his antlers crowned with blooms and moss, eyes wise and calm as the still forest pools. The stag regarded Tom with a knowing gaze, and a low, melodic voice filled the air, resonant as a distant bell. "You have walked far, little one, through trials and wonders. Here, the heart of the forest opens to you. Listen well, for the path you choose now will shape the tales yet told." Tom listened intently as the stag spoke of the delicate balance between light and shadow, of the eternal dance that wove life through the cycles of the earth. The stag's words were like the steady beat of a drum, grounding Tom in the vastness of the world while igniting a fire of purpose within him. With a gentle nod, the stag lowered his head in blessing, and Tom felt the warmth of ancient magic wrap around him like a protective cloak. He knew the journey ahead would be filled with both wonder and challenge, but his heart was steady and his spirit unyielding. With a final glance at the wise stag and the sunlit meadow, Tom Thumb stepped forward, his small feet carrying him toward the mysteries and marvels yet to be uncovered in the endless, enchanting embrace of the forest. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows that stretched like reaching fingers across the soft moss and wildflower-strewn meadow where Tom Thumb stood, his eyes bright with the fire of determination and wonder. The stag's blessing still warmed his heart like a glowing ember, a steady light against the gathering twilight. Around him, the forest began to hum with the evening's lullaby, the gentle rustle of leaves stirred by a cooling breeze, the distant call of night birds awakening, and the faint chorus of crickets tuning their strings beneath a velvet sky embroidered with the first twinkling stars. The path ahead wound into the twilight woods, where darkness folded like a velvet curtain between towering trunks and tangled roots. Tom's small figure moved with careful grace, the crystal of clarity nestled safely in his satchel, its soft pulse a beacon in the growing gloom. Every step was a whispered promise, a silent song of courage in a world that suddenly felt vast and mysterious beyond measure. The shadows deepened, thickening into shapes that flickered at the edges of his vision. Twisting vines that seemed almost alive, leaves that shimmered with unseen magic, and eyes that glowed faintly in the dark, watching, waiting. Yet Tom's heart remained steady, filled with the wisdom of the ancient tree, the courage of the golden bear, and the light of the stag's blessing. As he ventured deeper, the air grew cooler, scented with the sweet, haunting fragrance of night-blooming jasmine and the earth's soft breath after a distant rain. A gentle rustling from the underbrush caught his attention, and emerging slowly into the dim light was a creature both strange and wondrous, a silver fox with fur that gleamed like moonlight on water, eyes bright and knowing as ancient stars. The fox paused, its gaze locking with Tom's in a silent understanding, before it began to trot ahead, glancing back as if beckoning him to follow. Without hesitation, Tom followed, the forest path twisting and turning like a ribbon woven from shadow and light. Together they moved through thickets where the scent of moss and pine mingled with the faint sparkle of dew on spiderwebs strung like silver lace between branches. The fox led him to a clearing where the air shimmered with an almost tangible magic, and in the center stood a pool as still and clear as polished glass. Reflected in its depths was the vast, star-studded sky, a mirror to the universe itself. The fox stepped to the water's edge and, with a gentle nod, invited Tom to look into the pool. Peering in, Tom saw not just his own tiny reflection but visions of faraway lands, rolling hills dotted with golden fields, towering mountains crowned with snow, and vast oceans shimmering under the moon's tender gaze. The pool whispered secrets of the world beyond the forest, tales of adventure, friendship, and the endless dance of light and shadow. Tom's heart swelled with longing and hope, and he knew that though his journey through the enchanted woods was far from over, the path ahead would be lit by the magic he carried within, a spark as bright and unyielding as the stars reflected in the silent pool. The night deepened around Tom Thumb as he stood by the enchanted pool, the stars above shimmering like 1,000 tiny lanterns strewn across the velvet sky. The silver fox sat quietly beside him, its eyes gleaming with ancient wisdom and a hint of playful mischief. The air was thick with magic, alive with the murmurs of the forest, and the scent of wild herbs and damp earth mingled with the cool breath of night. Tom's gaze lingered on the pool's surface, where the shimmering visions of distant lands wove a tapestry of endless possibilities. Yet beneath the beauty lay a stirring challenge. The forest was not merely a place of wonder, but a realm where dreams could be tested and shadows could grow deep. As Tom reached out to touch the water, a ripple spread across the glassy surface, and suddenly, the pool's depths seemed to open like a gateway. Soft lights flickered beneath the surface, revealing a hidden underwater world teeming with creatures both strange and magnificent. Delicate water nymphs with hair like liquid silver danced among swaying lilies, their laughter like the tinkling of crystal bells. Fish with scales that glittered like molten gold darted through the clear waters, weaving between submerged ruins that spoke of forgotten times and lost magic. A sudden splash startled Tom, and from the depths emerged a regal figure, a majestic otter crowned with a circlet of woven reeds and sparkling gems. His eyes held the calm strength of the river itself, and his voice flowed like a gentle stream as he spoke. "Welcome, small traveler. You stand at the threshold between worlds, where water holds memories and secrets beyond the forest's green embrace. To journey forward, you must prove your heart is true by solving the riddle of the river's song. Tom listened intently as the otter recited the riddle, its words flowing like poetry. I run without legs, I murmur without a voice, I dance without feet, and I vanish without a trace. What am I? Tom thought deeply, the cool night air filling his lungs as his mind raced through the possibilities. Around him, the forest seemed to lean in, waiting, holding its breath. The fox nudged him gently, as if encouraging his courage. Then, like the first light of dawn breaking through the trees, the answer came clear and true. You are the river, Tom whispered, his voice steady and sure. The otter smiled, a slow and approving smile that rippled like gentle waves. Wisely spoken, little one. The river's song is a lesson in change and persistence, always moving, always shaping the land, yet never losing its own path. Remember this as you continue your quest. With a graceful leap, the otter dove back beneath the water, and the pool's surface calmed once more, the shimmering visions fading like mist. Tom felt a new strength settle within him, the lesson of the river's song weaving into his heart like a protective thread. As the silver fox rose and stretched, its fur catching the moonlight like spun silver, it beckoned Tom to follow deeper into the forest's mysteries. The path wound through ancient groves where towering trees seemed to whisper secrets of old, their bark etched with glowing runes that pulsed softly beneath Tom's fingertips as he brushed past. Fireflies flickered like tiny stars, lighting the way with a gentle, magical glow. Suddenly, the ground beneath Tom trembled softly, and from the shadows emerged a massive stag, its antlers now entwined with vines heavy with ripe, glowing fruit. Its eyes shone with an otherworldly light, and its voice rumbled like distant thunder. You carry the courage of the forest within you, Tom Thumb. But to truly become a guardian of this realm, you must face the trial of the whispering winds, a test of heart, wit, and spirit. Before Tom could respond, a swirling gust swept through the clearing, lifting leaves and petals into a dancing vortex of color and sound. The winds seemed to carry voices, soft whispers of friends and foes, challenges and guidance, memories and dreams, all swirling around him like a living song. To pass this trial, Tom would need to listen deeply, to hear not just the words but the meanings beneath, and to trust the voice of his own heart above all. With a determined nod, Tom stepped into the vortex, ready to embrace the swirling winds and the truths they carried, knowing that each challenge brought him closer to the magic that pulsed at the very heart of the enchanted forest and the hero he was destined to become. The whirlwind of the whispering winds surrounded Tom Thumb like a living storm, swirling leaves, petals, and soft whispers that wove through the air like strands of silver thread caught in a tempest. Each voice seemed to carry a piece of a puzzle, fragments of laughter and sorrow, warnings and encouragement, memories of those who had walked the forest paths long before him. The winds spoke not just in words but in feelings, echoes of courage, doubt, hope, and fear that rose and fell like a symphony beneath the swirling gale. Tom closed his eyes, letting the voices wash over him, focusing not on the noise but on the quiet truth beneath, the steady beat of his own heart, calm and sure amid the storm. Images danced behind his eyelids, a roaring fire tempered by gentle embers, a mighty river flowing around stones worn smooth by time, a tiny seed pushing through soil toward the sun. These were the lessons hidden in the wind's song, strength tempered by kindness, persistence in the face of obstacles, and the quiet power of hope. As the vortex slowly began to calm, Tom opened his eyes to find himself standing in a clearing bathed in the silver light of the full moon. The air was cool and still, and the scent of jasmine and pine hung sweetly around him. Before him stood an ancient tree, its bark twisted and knotted with the stories of centuries, its roots deep and wide like the veins of the earth itself. Carved into the trunk were symbols that pulsed softly with a gentle glow, the language of the forest, old as time and full of secrets. Tom reached out and pressed his small hand against the tree's rough surface, feeling a warmth that spread from the bark into his fingertips and radiated through his whole being. The tree seemed to breathe beneath his touch, alive with the memory of countless seasons, and a deep voice resonated in his mind, clear and steady like a heartbeat. You have passed the trial of the winds, little one. Your heart listens not only to the voices of the past but to the quiet call of the future. Remember that strength without wisdom is like a flame without light, dangerous and fleeting. Walk your path with both courage and care. The silver fox appeared again at Tom's side, its eyes shining with pride and a touch of mischief. It nuzzled his hand gently before darting off along a hidden path lined with glowing mushrooms that lit their way like stars fallen to earth. Tom followed, the forest around him alive with magic and mystery. The path led him to a sparkling waterfall cascading into a crystal-clear pool surrounded by stones that glowed with a soft inner light. The sound of the water was like music, a soothing melody that spoke of renewal and transformation. As Tom approached, he noticed a circle of smooth stones arranged carefully around the pool, each etched with symbols of the four elements: earth, air, fire, and water. The air hummed with power, and Tom understood that this place was a nexus of ancient magic, a sacred space where the forces of nature converged in harmony. Suddenly, a gentle voice broke the silence, a voice as soft and pure as a mountain stream. From behind the waterfall stepped a figure cloaked in shimmering robes woven from threads of light and shadow. Her eyes sparkled with the wisdom of ages, and her smile held the warmth of the sun. "Welcome, Tom Thumb," she said, her voice like a gentle breeze. "I am Elira, the keeper of the elements. Your journey has brought you here to learn the balance that holds the world together. To protect the forest and all who dwell within it, you must understand the harmony of earth, air, fire, and water." Tom listened intently as Elira began to teach him, her words painting vivid pictures of the elements' power and their delicate dance that sustained life itself. She showed him how to feel the heartbeat of the earth beneath his feet, to hear the whispers of the wind through the trees, to sense the flicker of flames' warmth even in the coldest night, and to find the flowing strength of water in every stream and river. With each lesson, Tom felt his connection to the forest deepen, the magic within him growing stronger and more alive. As Elira's teachings unfolded, the stars above seemed to pulse in time with the rhythm of the elements, and the forest sang a song of balance and renewal. Tom knew that the path ahead would be filled with challenges and wonders, but with the wisdom of the elements and the courage in his heart, he was ready to face whatever lay beyond the horizon. The moon hung high and full above the ancient forest, casting a silver glow over every leaf, stone, and ripple in the stream as Tom Thumb stood at the edge of the sacred pool. The lessons of the elements still shimmered in his mind like the aftertaste of a sweet, strange fruit, each truth deep and enduring, each one a seed planted in the garden of his heart. Elira, the keeper of the elements, stepped closer, her robe flowing like liquid starlight, and she placed a hand lightly on Tom's tiny shoulder. "Your journey is not just a path through the forest, little one," she said softly, her voice carrying the hush of midnight and the hum of the earth. "It is a thread in the great tapestry of all things. You have faced truth, listened to the winds, and learned the balance of the world. Now, one final gift awaits." She lifted her other hand, and the waters of the pool began to rise, forming a tall column of crystal droplets that spun slowly in the moonlight, each droplet containing tiny scenes: a fox racing through snow, a seed sprouting into a tree, a storm breaking over a sunlit sea. Tom reached out, his small fingers trembling, and the column collapsed gently into a single sphere of glowing water that floated toward him, warm and cool all at once. "This is the heart of the forest," Elira explained, her eyes alight with both joy and solemnity. "It will rest within you, unseen but ever present, guiding your steps and reminding you that even the smallest among us can hold great power if they walk with kindness." The sphere dissolved into Tom's chest, sending a surge of warmth through his whole being, and for a moment he swore he could hear every tree, bird, and stream in the forest speaking to him all at once, their voices woven into a song of life itself. Elira smiled and stepped back, her form already beginning to fade into the moonlight. "Go now, Tom Thumb," she said, her voice like the last note of a lullaby, "for your story has only just begun, and there are many who will need the courage you carry." The silver fox appeared again, bounding ahead along a narrow path that wound out of the sacred glade, its tail glowing like a lantern in the night. Tom followed without hesitation, the air crisp and clean, the stars above like an audience watching the smallest hero stride forward. The forest seemed larger now, not because it had grown, but because Tom saw it with new eyes, every shadow alive with possibility, every rustle of leaves a whisper of adventure to come. As he disappeared into the depths of the woods, the moon's light followed him, laying a silver road at his feet, and somewhere far above, the wind carried his name like a promise, scattering it across the sleeping world where dreams and tales are born. And so, though Tom Thumb's feet were small and his frame slight, his heart carried the weight and wonder of all he had seen and endured. The whispering trees, the trials of truth, the shifting winds, the hidden voices of water, the fierce warmth of fire, and the quiet wisdom of stone, each had left an indelible mark upon his soul, like the threads of a grand tapestry woven by unseen hands. He had begun his journey as a boy simply seeking a place in the world, but he returned from it as something more, a keeper of stories, a guardian of balance, and a living proof that courage can bloom in the most unlikely of hearts. As he walked beneath the silvered canopy, he thought of the friends who had guided him, the fox with its knowing eyes, Elira with her starlit robe, and even the ancient guardians whose challenges had shaped him. Their voices lingered in his memory, not as echoes of the past, but as companions who would travel with him in spirit for as long as his story was told. Villages would speak his name with fondness, children would lean closer by the hearth to hear the tale, and wanderers would take heart knowing that the forest itself had once chosen a hero no bigger than a sparrow. And somewhere, deep in the heart of the living woods, the paths he had walked still glowed faintly in moonlight, as if the land itself remembered and honored the tiny traveler who had proven that size was no measure of strength. The silver fox still roamed ahead, its tail gleaming like a comet's trail, leading new dreamers toward adventures of their own. The wind carried his name across valleys and rivers, threading it into lullabies, campfire songs, and the rustling of leaves, ensuring that Tom Thumb would never truly vanish from the world he had served.